Hey guys, Ramsey here. Welcome to another video. Tonight, we've got an early impression on another sample. We're sticking with the house of Les Néréides, or someone actually told me how to pronounce it and I already forgot. But we'll stick with Les Néréides for now. And the fragrance is called Oriental Lumpur EDP. Oriental Lumpur EDP. And if you watched my early impression video yesterday on Imperial Apopanax, you will know that this house, even though it isn't hyped or talked about a lot, is a house that commands respect, based on the fragrances they put out, based at least to my nose. What I smell smells very high quality. And I'm not sure about the price tag. I mean, they could be $30, they could be $200 fragrances. I don't know. It's probably something I should have looked up beforehand, but I did pick this up last year for maybe 30 bucks from Australia. Now I also had to pay 30 bucks in shipping, but for $60, 100 mils, this is Patchouli Antique. This is what their old bottles look like. The new bottles look the same, but the sticker is more streamlined. It looks like a business card on the front. I actually like these older ones with the angels on top. And this is a fantastic patchouli. I mean, if you're a patchouli lover, if you buy stuff like Psychedelic, Kritsia Moods Uomo, those kind of heavy patchoulis, check this out. This is one for the real patchouli lovers. It's chocolatey, it's thick. It's called Patchouli Antique. So the house, I had high expectations, and yesterday's fragrance, Imperial Apopanax, really met those expectations. So today I want to do another one because I got sent these samples from my perfume god person. You know who you are. Thank you very much for sending these, mate. And, I've got so many to kind of go through now. So a couple hours ago, I applied a bit on my left wrist. And just before the video, I just did a fresh application to remind me of the opening. So here's how it starts out. It starts out with just a tiny bit of citrus, okay? There's no citrus notes listed, but you will get a little slight citrusy feel before all the other heavier notes start to come in. And there's Oriental in the name. So obviously this is a spicy Oriental fragrance. And so what you end up smelling when it first comes, when it first hits your skin, is shades of Imperial Apopanax, but it starts to go in a different direction. And the direction it starts to go in is a spicier saffron, heavy saffron with spice. And the spice is black pepper. And if you've ever smelled, I'll give you an example. If you've ever smelled this fragrance, this is a designer from maybe like 20 years ago. I can't remember the exact day. I think 2003. Was the date this was released, but it could have been earlier or a bit later, but it's Versace Man, and it's discontinued. They don't make this anymore. They still make the Versace Man, Eau Fresh, or whatever the hell they call it. They kept the shitty one, and they discontinued the good one. But Versace Man, if you take a look at the note listing, you'll see that there's black pepper in the top and saffron in the mid. The black pepper saffron combination feels very similar to this. Okay, this is designer-ish. This smells a little bit more niche. I mean, if you put the two side by side, you might say that this one smells a bit more on the designer side, which I don't mind. I love this fragrance. I think it's a fantastic designer fragrance. They even did a flanker of Versace Man, and they called it Versace Man Oud Noir or something like that. Versace Pomme Oud Noir. But it's the same, it's got similar DNA with that saffron and pepper combo. And that's the star of the show in the beginning, with some freshness. And I'll circle back to what that freshness kind of reminds me of once we get to the end of this little chat here. And so one thing that's different, though, is if you take a look at the back of this, you'll notice that there's a neroli note. There's bergamot listed and neroli. There's no neroli listed. It's literally saffron, black pepper, cinnamon in the top, and that's it. And it smells much spicier than yesterday's Imperial Apopanax. Imperial Apopanax was more like If by Sorella Fontana for men, or Jaipur. I mentioned Jaipur. I mentioned Calvin Klein Obsession. It was more in that category. This is much more spicy, okay? So you have to like the spices. There's no doubt about that. There's nothing to take the edge off outside of just a slight hit of something, maybe a little citrusy when you first spray, but that goes away literally in seconds, 30 seconds it's gone, a minute it's gone, and it really starts to go into the heavier notes. So this house is really kind of impressing me. It's getting a reputation for quality. To this nose, anyways, it is. And what is surprising about this is once I smelled kind of the top and I understood the DNA, because the DNA is here for sure. I understood the DNA, and I expected it to begin to dry into something completely different than what it actually dried into. It dries into a very peppery fragrance, almost like the peppery aspects of the fragrance are amped up, not turned down. As the hour ticked by, and now we're going on hour 2, actually over 2 hours now on this one. And again, these early late night insight videos, as Rich Mitch would say, are meant to be just quick hits on my thoughts on a fragrance I probably wouldn't talk about otherwise. So at least I can get my thoughts out there. If someone's seeking info on a, rare or, fragrance that isn't talked about very often, maybe my video will pop up, that kind of thing. And so, it's a quality house, and you definitely get your money's worth. There's no doubt about it. Now, the pepperiness is a little shocking because I expected it to begin to get less peppery, but it actually gets more spicy, and it brings in another spice note to my nose. There isn't this note listed, but I think it brings in a little bit of clove. So a touch of clove to mix with the pepper. Sandalwood and patchouli makes up the heart, and patchouli more than sandalwood, okay? It is very intelligently dosed. That's the thing. Even though the pepper is really spicy, this is spicy Oriental for sure. Even though it's definitely spicy, it doesn't feel like it's ever overdone. Everything is within the boundaries, if you will. It's close. It's walking up to that line. I mean, if it went much more spicy, if it went much more peppery, you would start getting into the real heavy hitter pepper fragrances like Amouage Honor Man or something like that. This walks right up to that line, but it doesn't cross it. And now, what I did is I took an ingredient in the base that's very important to this fragrance. The ingredient, of course, was sent to me by Russian Adam, who, if you haven't watched my video on Russian Adam, or my interviews with him, there's 2 you should go watch. There's some of the best content on my channel. He is a, walking fragrance encyclopedia. And he sent me these ingredients, as I've talked about on multiple videos. One of them is benzoin. And the warmth of benzoin is in the base. And you, when you actually have the ingredient itself, there's actual benzoin on this blotter. You really get that warmth. Benzoin doesn't have a distinct, it doesn't have this distinct strong smell. Like I had Tonka on a blotter earlier today because I wore Andy Towers Sundowner, and I still have it on top of my wrist here. And the tonka from the blotter just emanates. This gives almost like an aura, like a feeling, like you're smelling an aura. And the benzoin in the base here is one of the most important notes. It's the star of the base because the base has this beautiful warmth of benzoin. It's very enveloping, it's very cozy in a way. The spiciness makes it a little less cozy than Imperial Apopanax. Imperial Apopanax goes more cozy to my nose. This goes maybe a little bit more daring because of the spice. But there is that warmth of benzoin in the base mixed with amber and bourbon vanilla. And the vanilla, what's interesting about this is the vanilla is unsweet. And I like that. That's why this house keeps kind of surprising me. It keeps pulling out the tricks, if you will. So the vanilla here smells like a, designer vanilla that you could buy from Sprouts, or, if you don't have Sprouts in your part of the world, then think of maybe Whole Foods, one of those high-end stores. You could buy designer bourbon vanilla, Madagascar vanilla, instead of just the regular vanilla that you would get. And those vanillas seem to be a little bit more deep and a little bit more or less sweet to my nose. And that's the type of vanilla that you get here. Yeah, it's a good fragrance. I like it. Now, it's marketed towards women, but I'm telling you, it's completely unisex. There's absolutely nothing that would stop a man from wearing this, especially if you like Oriental fragrances. And that saffron adds a little bit of modernity because, many fragrances now use saffron. It's a Middle East style fragrance used very commonly. Saffrons and all kind of stuff, Tuscan leather, and I mean, the list goes on. And so the other point about this fragrance, unfortunately, is that it is discontinued. So I have no clue what a bottle of this would go for on the secondary market. I can tell you that there are 2 pictures up on Fragrantica, one with an older bottle like this, and one with a newer bottle that looks like it's got a business card that says, Les Néréides on the front or whatever it is. And man, their patchouli is really, really good. That's going to get some serious wear this winter. Yes, it's impressive. I like it. I mean, since I have this, and I would consider this more of a designer, maybe even more traditionally masculine, since this tends to go to the tobacco cardamom route, which is not listed in Oriental Lumpur. There is labdanum here. There's no labdanum listed in Oriental Lumpur. There's just amber, benzoin, and bourbon vanilla. Now, there's finally, I mentioned the patchouli, which is more prevalent than the sandalwood, and the patchouli kind of rounds everything out. And it's a very similar style patchouli to Patchouli Antique. It's very well done. They do amazing patchouli, I can tell. And the last bit is, now that we are past the 2-hour mark, I'm noticing something. It's starting to turn a little bit smoky. Smoky in the sense that it's making me think maybe there's a touch of frankincense in here. And remember, in the beginning of the review, or early impression, I wouldn't call this a review, but early impression, I said there was something slightly lemony, slightly citrusy in the top, and then it kind of goes away. I'm wondering if that slight lemoniness comes from frankincense, because frankincense can sometimes give off this lemony vibe, especially high-quality frankincense. It can give that off. So there could be a trick the perfumer is doing where you get a bit of that lemoniness, that fresh, lemony, green, frankincense in the opening, and then it kind of hides behind these heavier ambery notes, and then it starts to make an appearance more in its usual form, more in its proper form. That's just a theory. I don't know if that's true or not. Maybe there's just a touch of citrus in the top, and it's that simple, and I'm just making it too complicated. But it does have this, smoky touch now that it's past the 2-hour mark. This one that I just put on is all about the saffron and the pepper and the cinnamon, and stuff like that. And the amber and the benzoin warming it up. I don't get that smokiness yet, but here, yes. Yeah, absolutely. So all in all, interesting fragrance. Again, this house is, I would say, if you're somebody that goes on YouTube's biggest channels, the people that have 200,000 subscribers and, and just buy whatever they hype, you're probably not going to hear about this house, because they're going to hype whatever brands give them free bottles. Who knows if this brand sends out free bottles, but if you go off your nose, and if you know perfume, my guess is, if you smelled this house, you will be impressed. I mean, probably one of the best $30 patchoulis I've ever bought. And you know, unfortunately, Oriental Lumpur is discontinued. I don't know if the new bottles smell as good as the old ones. That's the only thing. I don't know if there's been reformulations. I don't even know the price point. I have no clue what these go for. But, you know, if you like Oriental fragrances, you know, if you like some of the stuff I mentioned yesterday, if you like Shalimar, that kind of stuff, get your nose on Oriental Lumpur. You might love it. The spiciness might put you off. But you will see the quality. I think you'll see the quality of the ingredients. You know, when you smell the actual ingredients themselves, it's easy to pick out the quality. And this is good. This is a good house. Just my personal opinion. I don't know if I would buy Imperial Apopanax or Oriental Lumpur, but I will say they made good impressions on me. I wore them both, you know, back-to-back nights now. And, you know, it's a house that I would say if they have others, I would be interested in exploring. You know, it's a house that I would be interested in going further and maybe seeing what else that they have. I don't know if they have, I don't know if they have a ton of offerings. This says it was founded in Nice in 1980. By Italian-Belgian jewelry designer couple Pascal and Enzo Amadeo. Les Néréides is a trendsetter and trendsetter in jewelry fashion. The dividing between real jewelry and costume jewelry is abolished at Les Néréides. Okay, high-quality craftsmanship. Okay. But I thought some of these fragrances went back even further. I thought this house went back even further, like to the 1930s or something I saw. I'm going to have to look into that. Maybe they have a sister house or something. And, but anyways, long story short is the brand is impressive. I like it. I like what I smell. This seems to be high quality. They seem to take their fragrances seriously. And they seem to not be gimmicks, which I'm a fan of, you know. They're relying on the quality of the composition and the ingredients. And the saffron note here is beautiful. It's a good fragrance. It's good. I mean, it's not shite. If you're interested in testing different brands that are outside of the mainstream, this Les Néréides brand is one to put on the radar. I'll tell you that. I'll tell you that right now. So thank you for watching this late night insight. Shout out to Rich Mitch for coming up with that. And appreciate everyone's support as always. Hopefully I'll be able to do a list video tomorrow or something like that. I'm enjoying doing these early impressions, but you know, sometimes you just want to wear something that you love. You can't keep wearing new stuff over and over again. So appreciate the support. Thank you very much to everyone who likes and comments and subscribes. I know you don't have to do that, so it is much appreciated. And I'll hopefully see you tomorrow with another video. Bye, guys.